it's Jim Check. You're watching Kelowna Now, and I love that walk-on song there. It's the best one we got.
It's better every time.
I'm here with Scott Deedles. This show is sponsored by Block Rewards and Scott Deedles, and we always talk Bitcoin, and this time we're talking 21 million reasons to get paid in Bitcoin. And why do we use that number, 21 million?
Yeah, why wouldn't we? We're not going to get to all 21 million reasons.
No, we'll cover off a couple of the top ones.
That's right, yeah. Yeah, we spend obviously a lot of time in the first 10 episodes of the show talking a lot about the reasons, describing what Bitcoin is, helping people understand how to sort of categorize it as something you would own. And because in the spirit of that's what we do at Block Rewards, is helping people think about earning Bitcoin. I want to spend an episode actually talking about that aspect of why you might think about taking probably some of your pay in Bitcoin or instead of Canadian dollars.
There you go. So what are we going to cover today? Like, how are we going to break this down? What's reason number one to get paid in Bitcoin? Yeah,
so like always, I have a few slides, and I have brought some today. And I think the first way to think about it is, presently, almost everybody gets entirely paid in Canadian dollars. And this is a visualization of what the minimum wage has done in British Columbia over the last, call it 12 years. And you can see it's gone up kind of, what would that be, 55% during that time. And minimum wage is an interesting thing because it makes sense that we would want to ensure sort of a floor that everyone who is working a full-time should be able to afford a reasonable quality of life. We all probably know that's not true, even based on the cost of living, particularly in British Columbia. But what is minimum wage, and how does it reflect a measurement of the purchasing power of the unit of currency? Because I think that what we're really talking about when we're measuring an hourly wage in a unit of money that is becoming less valuable over time is that we need to pay somebody who's doing the same work, more of that thing all the time, because that thing is constantly going, less far, right?
It's like bad lettuce.
That's right. It's buying less stuff. And so maybe we'll just quickly right away throw up the second chart here, because this is an interesting thing we've talked about a lot in different episodes of the show. But it is so true, simply put, that the purchasing power of the unit of currency is directly tied to the amount of that currency that exists. And so this chart, it's not accidental that if we were to flip back to the first one, they look the same. Minimum wage is rising as the total amount of money is rising. Yeah. And so we have to continually pay people more to do the same work. Not because that work, life is becoming more expensive, because continually the Canadian dollar is devalued. It's buying less and less stuff.
It's not like they're getting ahead.
Right.
No.
And so, it's minimum wage itself is a sensible solution to a problem. But the real answer is we need to just start thinking about what is money meant to do. And one of the most important facets or features of money should be storing value. And what we're seeing is over longer periods of time, at the rate new money is being created, it cannot store any value. So that is really the basic premise of why somebody reason number one, why would somebody want to start taking some of their available paycheck in a different form of money? Mm-hmm. And the answer is because it's a better store of value.
Right. That's why people buy GICs, buy stocks, buy Bitcoin, buy commodities, buy gold, buy silver, because those are better stores of value than the cash, because everybody kind of knows that it's a deteriorating value.
Yeah. So if you really flesh that out, you think about other assets that you listed there, and GIC is a great example. It depends on how fast you actually believe our money is deteriorating. So, mm-hmm. So if a GIC is yielding 4% or 5%, that's a good question to see if that's even keeping pace at zero. And I would say it probably isn't. I saw a great video on TikTok last week. It was somebody who had used an order feature in the Walmart app to buy exactly what they had bought 3 years ago. Mm. And it was an order of food items.
Like a basket of food?
Basket of food items, $126 was the original order.
Want me to guess?
Yeah, take a guess.
3 years later?
3 years later.
Same basket.
Same stuff.
Same basket.
Originally $126.
$221.
$440.
Yeah, I'm out by a bit.
You're out by a little bit. Yeah.
$426.
Yeah. I mean, this is the problem. I've rented about this before, but
did they select what was in that basket?
No, this is the thing. It was the exact same stuff. CPI calculation can be adjusted in whatever way they need to get the number as close as possible to the number that they want to put in the headline. So, just saying this treasury bill is outperforming CPI is not necessarily a reflection of reality. And I think that as the problem accelerates, and we saw that second chart, the rate at which money creation is ramping up is accelerating. And this is how it works. So we're likely to see an accelerating deterioration of spending power. So this means that minimum wage charts should do the same. Like, we're going to have to see the rate at which that number comes up go up, or else those people are going to be continually falling behind this basic standard of living. And
basically, for a lot of people, like if they're in the minimum wage category, they're likely their biggest costs are going to be rent and food.
Yeah. Now, so minimum wage people aren't probably a direct example for taking some of their salary in Bitcoin, because those people are probably spending literally everything they're making on living. Right. Yeah. But there are a lot of people who are somewhere in the middle where there is something left over, and or potentially, so for any amount left over and beyond is where I think that Bitcoin presents an interesting thing to start thinking about, because at the end of the day, Bitcoin is a form of money that cannot be diluted by a government. And so it's basically the simplest thing you can do is just move your money from one form of money that's designed to deteriorate into the only form of money that just can't be diluted. And that's really the value proposition of what it's doing. So if we think about this, the next slide here is a visualization of the supply and demand curve of money. And this is a lot to look at, but what we're looking at on the left-hand side is sort of an explanation of what happens as this is the inverse curve of what we saw with both the first two charts. The more money that is created, the less value or the demand for the actual money itself there is. And with Bitcoin, it has what's called an inelastic supply, which means there is no ability to make more of it as the demand goes up. And this is what causes a fixed relationship between demand and the units. So what that translates into...
My eyes are still glazed over from looking at that chart.
Let's take a look at the next one. We'll pop Jim back to life. You could think about it a different way. Is what would your purchasing power be if instead of measuring your purchasing in Canadian dollars, you were measuring them in Bitcoin? And so this is a chart of the purchasing power of Canadian dollars priced in Bitcoin. And so $1 million of Bitcoin in 2012 today is like $1,000 of Bitcoin. And so over longer periods of time, it has been, you want to think about this strategy. And this is how I say, this is not a short-term strategy for somebody who's spending all of their paycheck, every paycheck, because the worst thing you can do with Bitcoin is buy some that you might need
to trade it or something like that, right?
You might need to spend it next week. Anybody who bought Bitcoin 2 weeks ago is down.
Well, this brings in a common principle of investing that most people should try to do. If you adopt this psychology or methodology early on in life, pay yourself first, 10%. Set that no matter if you're making a minimum wage or you're making $100,000 a year, if you try to put away 10% first and then just do with less, do you know what I mean? Like less coffee, less this, less that. And then you always have something that you can diversify with.
Yeah. And wealthy barber, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a basic common principle that so many people don't adopt. It's so simple, and it basically will give you financial freedom early on in your life.
Yeah. So what's great about Bitcoin is because it is something that can be bought in slices of however much you can afford. You can buy $100 of Bitcoin regardless of what the price of Bitcoin is.
Right. So it's like buying a partial share of Tesla.
That's right. Yeah. And but I would say even more than stocks, Bitcoin is fully liquid, right? 24/7 on weekends, on
The
evenings.
only thing that trades, I think, 24/7.
Yeah.
Is there something else that trades 24/7, 365? Because I don't know.
Not with that kind of liquidity. Yeah. And so it is something that you can access all the time. If you did need to turn it into something else, we've talked about on different episodes of how do you spend it. It is spendable.
There's different apps and different things.
All
right,
these things take some skills.
Yeah.
But it also is kind of turning your money into something that's just difficult enough to spend that it might, give
stop you from spending it.
Which is also an important part of saving.
It definitely leans towards or favors the tech savvy right now.
Yeah. Which is for people who are really just trying to protect their eroding wealth that is from this sort of melting ice cube money that we use. This is why partly why it's good. This is a feature, not a bug.
Yeah, and I would say that a lot of things are difficult to trade too, because like a lot of people will still ask me like, how do you buy gold? And a lot of people don't know how to buy it or where to get it, or Costco sells it, by the way. And the same thing goes for real estate. It's not a straightforward transaction where you can just, like get it done in half an hour. It's something that requires lawyers and all kinds of things, right? So a lot of things that are a store of value are a little more difficult to kind of transact. And same with opening a trading account. You have to open an account, provide all the paperwork and all that kind of stuff too, right? So
yeah. So for someone who's looking for a different way to set up a habitual savings system, Bitcoin is new, but it's something that has been, great.
Is that something you can help people with, or is there some place where they can go? Like, again, we'll leave the comment box in the bottom. You can reach out to Scott.
So this is, we'll talk about this in more detail in the next episode, but our base product at Block Rewards is a corporate Bitcoin savings plan that just enables companies in a simple way to think about letting their employees access some of their wages in Bitcoin, and for the potential for them to also consider it as a benefit. So they may add in sort of a top up or a matching contribution.
So just a basic question pops in my mind then. So like somebody's, we'll just use a round number, $100 to say that their pay for the week, and they want to put $10 in Bitcoin. You're only buying what you can with the $10. You're not giving them a set amount of Bitcoin at that payday, right?
That's right. It's the spot price of whatever.
Yeah, you're still getting, the employer's still paying the regular amount. They're just buying more or less of the asset when they're buying it.
Yep. So we have lots of companies doing this with us already, and basically every payday or every interval where they have a transaction with us, they're just getting a different rate. And over the course of a year, you sort of get a dollar cost average price in. And
interesting.
You'll know, as one of the easiest ways for people to save is when something comes off as a deduction from paycheck, right? It's a helpful way for people to be incented to do something that is typically harder for people to do if they have to do it, if it's left to themselves.
I mean, that's the first way I learned to save money is, it's not going to sound very smart for an accountant, but I went and bought a GIC, which the bank held as collateral, and they charged me 15% interest to borrow money, which they fully secured with the GIC.
Okay.
But it forced me to save. So the next time I went to do it, I'm just like, I'm not paying 15%.
Different times.
I mean, that was kind of like, they have the collateral and they're still charging 15%.
Yeah. That's, wonder who would agree to such a thing.
I was me. I was 19.
So we had one more slide in here, and this is really just the idea. So if we think about, and nobody really thinks about this, it is true that our Canadian dollar paycheck does lose purchasing power over time. And this is part of the reason why everyone's salary kind of needs to go up forever. Everything needs to go up forever in our world where money is continuously devalued on purpose. And this, like, the system's not broken; it's working perfectly. Money is designed to become less valuable over longer periods, hopefully just not over shorter periods.
Yeah, the Fed and the U.S. Fed and the Bank of Canada have a target inflation rate, which means like they expect that cash value or the cash to depreciate.
Yeah, that's the rate at which they intend for your money to become worth less. And so with this alternative, if part of your paycheck or all of it is denominated in a money that has historically actually accrued value, then that means that the purchasing power of your paycheck could actually go up over time. And so this is why it's such a powerful concept. I fully believe that within the next 15 years, everyone's going to be earning some form of Bitcoin. Maybe not all, but again, this problem we were talking about earlier in the episode where it's just very likely, because of the mathematics of how debt compounds and accumulates, that the deterioration of the purchasing power of the Canadian dollar is going to have to accelerate and continue to accelerate. So that means that as a solution for people who are looking to protect that monetary energy they're spending that same amount of time trying to earn, we're going to need to get creative or experience a further reduction in our quality of life.
So if you're an employee and you want to get paid in Bitcoin, I guess you talk to your employer and connect them with this guy.
blockrewards.ca.
And then see if they can do, it's kind of like a payroll savings plan.
Yeah. Yeah, so we have customers that do offer it alongside a traditional group RSP and give their employees the choice. Group savings plans are a really interesting thing. Only 1 in 4 employers offers some sort of retirement savings plan additional to what the government programs cover. And of those 1 in 4, the uptake on those plans is usually around maybe 60%. So you still have a lot of people that don't participate.
Right. So it's almost like dollar cost averaging into an investment as well, right?
Yeah.
So you're kind of getting the benefit of like forced savings, dollar cost averaging. I guess that'd be 2 of the main things. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. And from an employer perspective, if you're already offering something, or if you wanted to just offer it on a voluntary basis, there's basically no cost to it.
And you're taking the deductions off the total pay, and then you're just distributing the pay into different vehicles.
Yeah. Yeah. So it'd be like having 2 different bank accounts and just taking your paycheck in 2 different bank accounts.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. And, if for employers that are looking for different ways to attract and retain talent or incent young people, these are benefits that are possibly, exciting for people there are a lot more people who own Bitcoin than the average person might realize. And there are even more people who are curious about it.
Is the place to spend, like in this valley, starting to grow where you can actually start to transact?
I think in the valley right now, it's pretty slow. We talked about Vancouver when we did the spending episode. The Vancouver numbers have gone from something like 100 merchants to 300 since we did that episode. So it's growing a lot. But locally, I think it's really a savings technology. Yeah,
for sure. Anything else you want to cover off today?
Maybe we can talk about the French election next time. I think
a lot of stuff is coming to light everywhere.
Yeah, interesting.
They're pulling the veil back.
They are pulling the veil back. Absolutely.
And people are starting to see like, oh my, right?
Yeah.
We won't get into it. We'll save that for like an average Canadian show or something. That we won't muddy the waters here too much. But you could start believing your eyes and ears. How's that?
That sounds like a good start.
Anyway, we thank you for watching Kelowna Now, and we hope you enjoy the Bitcoin show. And again, thanks to Scott Deedles and Block Rewards. There'll be a form at the bottom. If you want information from Scott, just fill out that form, and then you can find Scott on a bunch of social channels too. You're on X as
Lantern Bitcoin.
Lantern Bitcoin, like the Green Lantern.
Like the Green Lantern, the Orange Lantern.
The Orange Lantern. And then also anywhere else?
On LinkedIn. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn.
He is pretty active on LinkedIn. There you go. All right. Again, thank you for watching Kelowna Now.